Well, hello.
My gosh, Nalita V, how
How,
how how are
oh my
you?
goodness, he's spraying on the cologne. I love it. I'm
Oh,
amazing. How are you?
oh my gosh, I'm good to be alive. Thank you for asking. Thank you for being here and agreeing to my invitation. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, I'm grateful as well. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm a huge supporter, and you do so many amazing things. And one of the things that stand out to me is the love and respect that you show that you have for your parents. You know, you put it on this
Mm,
on display in your videos, particularly your father. My dad, I'm crazy about my dad. I wouldn't be the man that I am if it wasn't for him. And I can't even talk
wow.
about it too much because I get that kind of
I feel
choked
it.
up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So to see what he means to you and what it also means to you to carry on his legacy is just that really resonates with me. And tell me about that.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I definitely feel you on what you were saying because as you spoke, I felt that energy from you as well. And I'm the very same way. Like you said, I give admiration to both of my parents. They are amazing people. I credit them for everything that I am today. Particularly, I always give emphasis to my dad because he was the one who implemented martial arts as the gift to me, which is
Mm-hmm.
what people know me for now. A lot of times is my martial arts and how I move that forward. So in that particular area, yes, the credit is given to my dad. He's an incredible man. I'm very grateful for him because when I think about in all odds, just beyond the martial arts, my father's from the Philippines, so he comes from a country where he didn't have the opportunities that many people had, like I have here in this country to grow up. So to be able to come from a country where you didn't have that, you grew up in a hut, you grew up selling candles at the age of 5, to come to the States and try to make something for yourself, but give such a wonderful, beautiful gift to your child that now she can, survive. And like they say, like first generation, second generation in America, it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's the most incredible thing to me. So I'm very grateful to him for that.
Sure, sure. How old were you when you started your martial arts training?
It's before I can remember. If you listen to my parents, if my parents tell the story of when I started martial arts, they will say that I started in the womb. And the story is, it goes like this. I can't say because obviously I don't have memory to that. But the story
Right.
goes that every time my dad would come to my belly and say, to my mom's belly and say, kick, I would kick on command every
Oh
single
wow.
time. They said, oh, they obviously babies that kick. But they were like, every time he would come, and that was the thing. Like he would say kick, and I would just go at it kicking. So they like to say since the womb. And as soon as I came out, and this is the same way I am with my nieces and nephews, little baby can play around their hands and stuff like this. He would always just have me in the motion of kicking. So I believe that's where kind of like the second nature comes from because, before they taught me how to walk and do all these things, he had me punching and kicking. So that's from them. But I do have early memories of just being a little girl and watching my dad teach and trying to assist him and do those sort of things. So forever in my lifetime, yes.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, wherever I'm wrong, but as far as the lineage is concerned, your dad trained under Don Inosanto, which was one of Bruce Lee's. I think wasn't he his first student in Jeet Kune Do, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they say
Or
it's,
one of
one of his first students, and
okay.
also a really close friend to Bruce Lee. So that's another element into it. It's not just a student; it was a lifetime and a friendship bond that they had, and a camaraderie of going back and forth and sharing their different arts. Because Guru Dan as well, with Filipino martial arts, shared that with Bruce Lee as well. So yes, that is where my dad's lineage first stems from. He's trained with a lot of other people, but Guru Dan was his first instructor when he came to the U.S.
Okay, sure. So he trained under Guru Dan, and then he in turn was was he your first and only teacher in terms of martial arts, or how did that work?
Yes, my father was my first teacher, but not my only.
Okay.
I really, again, this is where I give my dad credit. I'm really appreciative of because he had the similar mindset as to Bruce Lee in the
Mhm.
sense of with his system where you take what is useful and you discard what is not. And so my father, he was never discriminatory against different arts because a lot of times within martial arts, it's like my art is better. This has the better movements and things, and we can argue about that all day. But what my dad saw, he was like, I really like this in this art. He said, okay, I like this beautiful kick in taekwondo, so I'm gonna put you in taekwondo school. I love this within wushu, you're gonna do this. I like this within karate, within boxing. So it was just so amazing to me because I was homeschooled, so I have a lot of time on my hands. But I would train at my father's martial arts school. In the days that I wasn't there, the times I was done teaching or training, then I would have to go to another school and learn. So I always laugh with people and I say, hey, I feel like I grew up like being a little monk. My dad just had me going to different schools and just learning martial arts my whole life. So I've had several different teachers throughout life in many styles, but my dad is my first and my forever teacher, I like to say.
Okay. Absolutely. Okay. Now, was he ever able to convince your mom to do some training, or were you able to convince your mom to do some training at all? How did that go?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If people know my family, so my entire family does martial arts, meaning my immediate family, my mom, my sister, and I, and my dad. So my dad never had any sons, so he has a house full of girls who are very protective over him. But no, so my mom's first experience with martial art was actually before my dad. She started taking karate when she was a teenager. That was something that she did. And then when she met my dad, he introduced her to other arts, the Jeet Kune Do, the Filipino martial arts. And so she trained as well. And so when we grew up and we had martial arts school, they had a school out in North Carolina, then they opened out in California. And as I got older, we opened one in Texas. So all of us taught. It was my mom, my dad, my sister, and I.
Wow.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Talk about getting it honest. Jeez.
And that's why I tell people, you know, I love that so many more people are aware of martial arts today and are really into it. But it's like, I ate, slept, and breathed martial arts my entire life. I had other extracurricular activities, but that was my main thing. So the fun part about our house is like, you know, people would know they would come over and it was like random attacks would happen. You would just never know. We'd always touch, you'd be walking around and like, you know, can you block this? Can you disarm this? And that's the household that I grew up in. It wasn't tossing a ball. It was like, we're kicking pads, we're attacking each other. You know, it was great.
So I could only imagine that it kept all you guys sharp. You know,
oh
kept
yeah.
I mean, your dad wanted to be his best, so he stayed sharp to keep his babies and his baby. You know, everybody sharp. So
yeah.
Wow. Now, so how many martial arts total have you trained, and what do you actively practice now?
Yeah, so I've trained in a lot. Thank you for that question. I've trained in a lot of different styles of martial arts, and I think I would love to continue to train in all of them. But as you know, as you get older, it's like it feels like you have less time in the day. So if I could, yeah, you know how that is. It's like I would love to be like when I was younger and go train at this school, train at that school, all this sort of stuff. But it's like bills have to be paid, and we've got things to do throughout the day. So I grew up doing Filipino martial arts, which is, you know, everybody knows it for our knees, Eskrima, Kali. But we also have Filipino hand trapping, Filipino boxing. So everything within the Filipino martial arts realm. Jeet Kune Do, obviously, because of the training that my dad received under Guru Dan. And in Asanto Academy, he learned not only Jeet Kune Do, but he learned Pencak Silat, he learned Muay Thai. He's certified under Surgeon Chai, who is the president and the founder of the Muay Thai Association of America. He's the founder of that, so he's certified in Muay Thai. He's trained in Savat with Salim Asli. He's trained with him. There's a lot of different styles. So he in turn impart that on me. Then I've trained with Richard Brandon and Wushu, another amazing teacher named Sifu Kisu in Northern Shaolin. I've trained with JJ Perry and also the Salim brothers in Taekwondo from Hungary. They were gold medal Olympic champions from Hungary. I've trained in capoeira. I've done a lot.
In capoeira, who was your who trained you in capoeira?
I had a couple of capoeira teachers. So I was fortunate at a period of time where I was in this really great circle of martial artists. I coached at UFC gyms when they first opened, and thankfully through that, they had a lot of different teachers who came about. There was this amazing teacher that I trained with there, and then I just dabbled throughout life. So I don't want to attribute it to one person. Sure. It's been dabbled. So I would like to say capoeira is one I would like to pick back up on more. I've never actually really taken the time to train the way I would like to, is what I would say. Okay. The great part about martial arts, as you know, is that for me, I adapt well. I pick up on a lot of different styles. It's like, okay, I can see it and I can do it. But to be able to actually really have that tenure in it and really understand the art, I would never tell myself or tell people like, hey, I know capoeira like that. No, I train in it, but that's something that I would love to really definitely get better at.
Okay, yeah, my when you said capoeira, my ears kind of went off because I've trained capoeira off and on for a number of years.
Really? And where did you train?
Mestre Marcelo Cavarinha, and he was out of Berkeley. He's in Brazil now, but Capoeira Majinga is the association I was a participant of, and we had a group in Michigan, and I trained under Contra Mestre Nego Bone, William Brown Jr., and Contra Mestre Trovoada, Gary Williams. Those are my teachers.
That's amazing. So I'm about to ask you for recommendations.
I might be able to tell you a thing or two.
You got legit. I heard that like the Portuguese accent, and I was like, oh, okay, he's legit at it.
You know what? Like I said, off and on, I've done it off and on, and it's one of those things, Nalita. And I don't even know if you can. And I don't mean this pessimistically, but I don't know if you can relate to it because of the fact that you were just so saturated in it but maybe in a sense martial arts, but maybe in a sense of just when you're younger, you don't necessarily have the self-discipline developed for certain things, and then when you get older, you have that self-discipline to a degree, but like we talked about before, the ability to have that time,
Exactly.
So I have more self-discipline now in certain regards than I did when I was younger, but finding the time to do it, so.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that. I completely understand. Like you said, I was very versed in, or like used to having discipline throughout martial arts, but obviously, I got put into a lot of different activities. So it's hard to give all the time and attention to every single one, and especially as you get older, it's like, I'm great at what I do, but what I would love to really just always be on par and, up to speed with what I want to do. It's harder as you get older.
For sure. Yeah. In terms of, I love how you encourage and facilitate self-defense for women, and just self-defense as a whole. What would you say in particular put you on that path, aside of the fact that you are a born and bred martial artist?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because to me, because of my upbringing, I just thought everyone knew what I knew. I just thought that everyone could do what I do. So I kind of grew up in this way. Like I would have I remember being a teenager and having my friends like, okay, come do this kick, come do this, and this. And they'd be like, Alicia, we can't do that. what are you talking about? I'm like, no, come on, it's easy. You just turn blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I want to say around my teen years is when I started realizing like, oh, this is not normal. Not everybody can do this. Not everybody has these abilities. And then on top of that, as you grow up to be a young woman and you start to, meeting people and going out and things like this, I always had this just innate, I don't even want to say confidence about it. That's just the the mindset that I had, was to just be prepared, to know these things, to always be aware. And the more that I heard stories from other women, and I don't even want to limit it to just women, I speak to women on that because I am a woman, but just to everybody about having that security of being out and about, I realized that there was a lack of it. There was really a lack of it. And then also to the fact of, a lot of people, things happen to them. And people don't often share that. And I'm very transparent that it made it even more aware for me. The first time I was ever physically harassed by someone, it shook me.
Okay.
And it shook me in a way because I remember with all the training that I had, so basically, I'll make a long story short, I was getting a massage one day. And at this massage parlor that I went to, it was an older man who was massaging me. Sure. And he inappropriately touched me. And when he inappropriately touched me, I immediately froze. And I'm never ashamed of saying that I froze that first time. I've been attacked before in like physical altercation outside, but never in a sense of being violated in that way. You feel very, very vulnerable. You don't have the proper clothing, anything like that. And I remember I froze. And so after I got done, I had called the cops. Talked to some friends. They said, oh, you must have jumped up and kicked his butt. You must have done this, this, and this. And I in a way felt so ashamed. And I was like, oh, wow. With all that I know, with all that I did, I had to be honest. I said, actually, no, I didn't do anything at all. I said, I didn't do it because I had not prepared myself mentally for someone to physically touch me in that way and do those sort of things. And from there started kind of my crusade. Thank you. It started my crusade to be like, you know what? I never want to be in this position again. And what can I do to remedy that? Not only for myself, who is a person who's very versed and very trained, but let alone for somebody else who isn't, who doesn't understand those things and know. And so unfortunately, someone has tried to attack me again outside of that. But the problem was, by that time when it happened, I was very versed and I was very ready and I mentally trained myself. So it's a completely different story. So that's kind of where that first crusade started, of just like, look, everyone needs to know something, at least something, or train your mindset to prepare, even if you don't, because my thing is, as much as I know, I don't want to have to defend myself. I said this the other day. I had an encounter where a man was following me into a parking lot. And thankfully security came and helped me out, but this guy had taken his shirt off. I don't know what he was about to do. But I told my people, I said at the time, I was prepared if I had to, but I thought smart. I said, you know what, as much as I know, I don't want to have to do these things. So if I can help someone else either be in that mindset to be more aware, and if it comes down to it and you have to be able to defend yourself, you're more equipped to do so. So that's where the passion comes from behind that, because for me to know all that I know, I never wanted someone else to be in that position.
Sure. And what a blessing that, because I mean, people go through things. We all live life. We've all experienced some kind of trauma. It's a blessing that you were able to take that and to use it in a way to help others, because unfortunately, and nothing against people that don't have that strength, find the ability to do that, but you took that was negative and made it into something positive that could also help other people. So hats off to you for that. You're welcome.
Thank you. You speak so much truth to that, because it's true. It's like, when at first I didn't want to share that. When it first happened to me, I didn't want to share that I froze, because it's kind of like the embarrassment, like, oh, all you didn't do this and this, you know? And so at that moment, I started to understand. I was like, oh, this is the reason why a lot of times people who are, attacked or victims of something or have experienced trauma, they're afraid to come forward themselves because of this sort of feeling. So I was like, you know what, you gotta break free of that. And the more that I shared, then there was more people who said, oh yes, this has happened to me, blah, blah, blah. And then I started finding out people close to me, things happened to them that I had never known, rape, beatings, things like this. And so the more that we share, that's another thing that I want to put out on the platform, is that I tell people what I do is not just martial arts, it's bigger than that. Like, martial arts is amazing, it's been my life. But when people ask me, they say, Nalisha, what do you do? I say, I share, and it's different mediums. Just like an artist has different mediums. They either draw in pencil, they paint in oil, acrylics, whatever. I said, those are different mediums. So with all that I do, it's sharing my life experiences to hopefully, make someone else's life better or easier, or something that they can pass on to someone else.
Absolutely. 100%. Jeez.
I was like, don't mean to get heavy, but it's deep.
No. We having a conversation, and sometimes heaviness happens in conversations. But I'm about to lighten it up.
Okay.
Your sense, I was gonna get to this one later, but your sense of humor is hilarious. And I've seen videos. You're welcome, with you and your parents, and they get in on the action too. Is that something that they put into you and your sister, or is that something that you? I mean, we all have our personalities. I know for myself, my sense of humor came from lack of self-confidence and self-esteem issues when I was a kid. But that was my defense mechanism. Everybody has an origin of where it comes from. But for you, is that something that you got from your parents? I mean, even seeing some of the collaborations you done with King Batch, Master Key, Detroit Dust. It's like you have a sense of humor that's just like this. I mean, the stuff you've done by yourself alone, you're welcome. It's hilarious. So where did that come from? How did you develop that?
Well, first I want to say I appreciate that, because I always wonder, I'm like, I wonder if people get my sense of humor. To me, I think I'm hilarious. However, I don't know if everybody else gets it. But no, I definitely want to say I grew up in a very fun household. Both my parents are pranksters. I would say this though, I'm very much like my dad. My dad is an extrovert. We're born around like the same month, everything. So our personalities are very similar. My mom, she's fun and she's funny, but she's more reserved. She's much more of an introvert. So I have to force her to get into video. She hates it. She hates, oh my goodness. My mom is a person, she would never take pictures if she didn't have to. Really? Like she wants no parts of it. So it's either I've caught her off guard or I've forced her to be in a video with me. Or my dad, he's more willing. He pretends like he's not willing, but he'll crack the jokes on the side. So I grew up in a very fun household, but definitely my personality, a lot of it comes from my dad. I'm a huge extrovert. And the way that I compute life, or I work through life, is through humor. I believe that, at the end of the day, no matter what's going on, I just want to feel good. And I want other people to feel good. So, even if it's a sad moment, I'm like, I'm probably gonna end up cracking it. I'm that friend. Don't look at me in a sad moment. Don't look at me in a moment we're supposed to be serious, because I cannot be serious whatsoever. I'm gonna crack a joke. I'm gonna make a face. I'm gonna do something.
I tell you what, it's the stress reliever. Laughter is healing for sure.
Yeah.
I was laughing when you were saying that your mom, you had to kind of talk her into stuff. The one video where I just watched that you and your father was doing something. Y'all was doing something. Your mother was just in the background minding her own business, doing something on the laptop. I think you captioned it that she wanted no part of it.
She never wants any parts. Like, she has to be forced, or then she's like, oh, I know I'm gonna get a message from somebody later saying you put me on the internet, you've done this, you've done that. I'm like, it's fine. People love it. She's like, I don't want people to think this about me. I was like, they love it. So you can just be yourself. You could do nothing in the video and they would love that.
110%. Now, I was going to get to this later, but I'll ask it now. You have made yourself so valuable. We all have value, of course, but I mean, between being an advocate for the self-care, mental health, martial arts, fitness, you're gorgeous. You have charm, all these things. Are we going to see you applying that towards film, perhaps? Like it was. I can't remember the name of it, but it was the one that was the oh my gosh, what was it called? It was Dennis Quaid was in it. You did. If you give me a second, I can tell you.
Oh yes, it was for the Rams. It was for the Rams. Yep. Yes.
Yep.
I did something for the Rams. Yeah, and they filmed it like a movie. It was like all these big Hollywood actors, and they filmed it like a movie trailer. So first of all, again, I just want to keep thanking you. I appreciate that because, like I said, I really just, my goal in life is just to put goodness into this world. As simple as that. I want to put goodness into this world. So I appreciate that, and I always take things with reverence now. I never didn't before, but I take things with reverence. When it comes in regards to film thing like this, so I grew up. I'm from Los Angeles. I'm from Inglewood, California. I grew up in doing Hollywood commercials and things like that. And I'm very transparent with people. I did it for such a long time, and there was a point in time where it no longer made me happy. I think for people, they have to understand, like, if you're within the industry, I think you can understand that. But outside perspective, people, they always think it's kind of like this quick fix, like, oh, you're talented, you should be in film. That honestly is not how it works. You know what I mean? There's a lot that goes behind it, and a lot of emotionally, I had to learn how to deal with rejection very heavily. And it's not even like, there's valid rejection, but there's also rejection that it's just too much. So that was one thing of it. And then I also always wanted to be true to myself, if you can understand what I'm saying on that. It's like, I'm a person, I will never compromise who I am to get someplace. And so there was a point within the industry where it didn't make me happy. And so I took a break for many years. I took some time off in 2020 when I came back to the US. Acting kind of fell back into my lap. So I want to say during the COVID, quarantine and all that, I actually worked quite a bit. I was doing I filmed a show. I filmed my first feature film. I had tons of national commercials. There was a lot of things happening. And it felt great. I always said I would do it as long as I had joy in what I was doing. Okay. And I was feeling a lot of joy within that. And recently I've come to a place where I'm like, I'm kind of at the in-between point. It's like, do I want to keep going? Is this what I ultimately want to do? So I've taken another little break. I took all the end of last year off, and I was like, you know what? I just want to live. I don't know if you could even notice, like on my social media, I haven't really been on social media either. Which for a lot of people is their bread and butter, or it's like, that's the thing that we do daily now. It's just like, you got to be on social media. And for me, I was like, no, I don't want to feel like I'm feeding a beast. I don't want to feel like I have to just to produce. Like, that's not really living to me. And as much as I preach about and advocate for really living and going for what you want, I was like, I love acting, but at this point in time, I'm not really happy with it, so I don't want to do it.
Sure.
Being on social media, I love it. I love being able to encourage people, but at the time, it just wasn't making me happy, so I didn't want to do it. But I will say this, because of stepping away and because of taking that time, there are some things that may be happening. There are things that may be happening. So, I just do check-ins with myself. So I talk a lot, but the short answer to that is I'm very much open to it. I'm still open to doing acting and, being able to put my goodness out into the world in that medium. Mm-hmm. But my priority is me. My priority is how I feel.
Understandable. Two things. You said you talk a lot. I'm all ears. Talk as much as you like. I'm not complaining. I'm enjoying it and taking it all in and learning about the masterpiece that which is you. So you don't, by all means, talk. I got so caught up on that, I forgot what my second point was going to be.
That's okay. We're gonna get back around to it.
That's what it was. Okay. That makes hearing you say that you took a break makes me all the more grateful for you accepting my invitation, because coming off of your break, you said yes. So thank you. Thank you again for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Going back to the martial arts, how many different weapons have you mastered? I've seen you with the new talk. Hey, let's have it.
The short answer is anything. So I honestly, out with strangers, I get that question a lot, because once they hear like, oh, you're a weapons expert, you do this, what type of weapons? I'm like, honestly, anything. So I'm a firm believer in that when you've trained enough, like I have, or trained so much in different styles and different arts, again, I get like same thing. Like I grew up dancing as well, so I can look at things. Yes, I can look at things. I could like, give me a couple seconds, give me a couple tries, got it. I'm very good at picking things up. So in that respect, and not even just in the movement, but also understanding the reasons behind movements. I love movement. I love movement. I love anything. So in that respect, when you say weapons, I'm like, everything is. I'm taught that within Filipino martial arts, we say weapons, but tools. Everything's a tool. So the same way that I would use a knife, I could use a fork. I could use an umbrella. It's the same way you see me with a stick. It's an umbrella. It's a broomstick. It's a staff. You know what I mean? So when the people say what weapon, I'm like, basically everything. You give me something, I'm gonna use it. Okay. It's like Denzel said, I'm gonna leave here with something. That's me with weapons. I'm gonna leave here with something. I'm gonna be able to do it all.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let me reframe it then. What formal weapons are you proficient in? Right. I mean,
I was
both,
like,
everything.
You see my face right now? I was like,
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
didn't I just say everything?
You did. You did. I'm sorry. I
I was
apologize.
like, you know, because think about it like this: bow staff, same movement. That's the same movement as a chain whip. I love chain whip. You know what I mean? 3-sectional staff. It's the same movement as a bow staff and a chain whip. You know what I mean? So then collie sticks. Collie sticks you can use in the same way that you use swords. Size. Slight differences on the wrist moves and stuff like that. But when you understand angles of attack, when you understand motion and movement, give me anything. I'll be able to use it. You know what I mean? So I've trained in many different weapons. Believe even when I cross train with my friends, if there's a weapon I haven't used, then we will switch off. My friend will take my collie sticks or take, you know, my nunchucks, whatever, and we switch off and we practice. But I'm pretty much versed in every weapon because I've done so much movement.
Sure. Okay.
You know what I mean? It's kind of the same, like saying, like, you know, styles of kicks. You know, a roundhouse kick will be slightly different from a taekwondo to Muay Thai to Jeet Kune Do to Savate, but the basis of what it is, you know what a roundhouse kick is.
That's true.
Slight difference. So the same thing with the tool. It's like a video game character. You ever seen a video game character when they're standing there and you could just switch out the weapons in their hands? That's kind of how it is for me.
Okay, he's an action figure.
I am. I like to think that I am.
Yeah, I'm not contesting it at all. Do you have anything in particular that you're more partial to? I almost want to say I've seen you. Gosh, I'm trying to think of what have I seen you the most with, but I'll ask you, is there anything or particular things that you're more partial to playing around with? Because I've seen you with the man.
Man, if you look at my trunk right now, my trunk is full of weapons. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. Sure.
And so, like, there's everything inside mine, because I bring it with me because I'm like, I never know what I'm gonna train, where I'm gonna be. So there's collie sticks in there. There's double broadswords in there. There's what else is in there? 3-sectional staff, nunchucks are in there. I have all different types of blades. I love knives, so all different types of blades and knives are inside of there. So I was probably, if you're gonna say anything, probably a knife. Okay. Knives are my thing, but then close seconds are nunchucks.
Okay.
People know me for my nunchucks. It's funny because often people are like, "You're the nunchuck girl," and I'm like, "Yeah, I do nunchucks, but you know, it's like I like other weapons as well."
No, nunchuck girl.
Yeah, I'm the nunchuck girl, and ever since I did my Savage Fenty, that's the other thing. She's like, "Oh, you're the girl with the nunchucks." I'm like, "Yeah, that's me."
Why'd you have to bring up Savage Fenty? I'm not gonna go there at the moment.
We'll go there. We can go there later.
I'm gonna keep it on task.
Okay.
How many times a week do you train martial arts, and how many times a week do you gym train?
I've been doing more gym training lately. Martial arts should be a daily. But like I said, last couple of months I've taken off. I was like, I just wanted to relax. I haven't really been training with my friends like that. I still keep up and do my things at home. Stretching is really important to me. Mobility, stretching, and things like that. So I stay ready. I hit my bag all the time. However, I've been doing more gym training because I have personal body goals. I wanted to be very transparent. I was like, I need to get a little bit thicker. So I would like to get thick, and the only way I can do that is to go to the gym and do some gym work. So yes, I was doing that, and then it switches up throughout the week.
Why with the thickness? Why would you? I mean, you know what? We want what we want. Nalita wants what she wants with herself. Fine, never mind.
Mm-hmm. I do. You know why I say this too? Because I was vegan for about 1 year. And being vegan, I love being vegan. I just recently kind of transitioned to no longer being vegan, but I'm thinking about going back being vegan. But I like being vegan, and I think the difference with that is just for me, I slimmed down a lot, which you don't necessarily. I have friends who maintain their muscle. I maintain muscle, all those sort of things, but there were just certain goals that I wanted for myself. And then I was like, you know what? I miss lobster. I want to eat some lobsters. So I went back to eating seafoods and lobsters, and that kind of started back to me like, okay, you know what? I want to get a little bit more thick. Get a little bit more hips in there. Hips and glutes. Thick thighs save lives, as my friend Lita likes to say.
Yep. Yes, she does. So let me ask you, I'm speaking of like numbers. I'm not asking your weight, but I'm just saying, like, for an example, let's say if you were, watch this. If you were like 50 pounds, what do you want to be, 70 pounds instead?
Well, first thing, I'm not ashamed of my weight. I love weight. I don't worry about weight at all. I think I'm like 155 now, 150 something now. Okay. So I'm 5'9". I'm 5'9", which is good weight. So when I was vegan, I was around like 140. That's the smallest I had been since I was a teenager. I was like 140. lean muscle. And so right when I went back to the transition to eating regular foods and meats, I went up to like 150, 152.
Okay.
So yeah, so I don't mind.
So how much more? Go ahead, please.
Sorry about that. I'm not a weight person. I'm not a weight person. So I'm certified fitness nutritionist. I've had my PT certifications all my life, and I've always trained my clients like this. When I used to train, I said, look, I don't worry about weight. If there's particular goals you're trying to reach, yes, we'll measure that metric. But for me, it's like how I feel and how my clothes fit. I want my quad. I want to look like an action figure, basically. My goal, if you ask me body goal is action figure. So that's the reason why I was like, I need to thicken up these thighs and hips, and then just get stronger.
Okay. Now, you said initially you want hips. You said hips and glutes. Do you want definition too, or you just want more meat with the hips and glutes?
Definition. Definitely, I want to build my quads because like the way that my family is built. So I take after my mom's side of the family. We have some thick women on my mom's side of the family, and I'm the smallest one on that side of the family. So like shapely wise, I'm fine with that. But for me, I do want to put on more muscle. I definitely want to put on more like quad strength. I'm really hamstring and a posterior chain dominant, so I tend to build muscle very quickly. There for me was like I want to build my quads more.
Okay, that sounds good. Tell me about the app that you released recently.
Yes, so I have my app called NalitaV.app, and it was just a way to be able to reach more people because I kept getting questions about, do you do PT? Do you train? And honestly, I don't anymore. I trained for so many years. I taught group classes and things like that. And I laugh and joke with people. I'm like, I feel like I should be retired by now because I've been teaching since I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was teaching other kids. I've taught my whole life. And what I like to do now, I like to do seminars. So every now and then I do seminars or retreats. But I was like, how can I still be able to provide people with information? Like I said, I want to share with people how to defend yourselves, learn staying physically fit. So I started my app called NalitaV.app where I have the martial arts training on there. I have kind of like the in-between for people who are not necessarily completely into martial arts. It's kind of like, okay, we got like a cardio kickboxing kind of boxing class that we can do that's geared towards more fitness. And then I have HIIT workouts, but then something that was so important to me that I started to add in this year is what we spoke about before, is that I believe that no matter what you do, whether it's physical fitness, nutrition, work, it all starts with your mental and how you take care of yourself, your overall well-being. And so I said, I wanted to start sharing more with people about this well-being, because if you feel good in life, if you feel good in who you are as a person and what you're doing, that resonates in your work, that resonates in your fitness, that resonates in every area. So I wanted to start sharing in that way. And that's a new element that I've added into my app as well, is just sharing on the well-being side of things.
Okay. Now, are you satisfied with the progress of it thus far?
I am. I'm definitely satisfied with the progress of my app thus far.
Good.
What I would like to do as a person who wants to make sure that my consumers, that my customers are happy, I'm working on building a team now to be more efficient, because always in my business, I've always been the only person. I'm the sole owner of it. So that means I am the person who emails you. I am the person that, puts things digitally on the app. I do that video editing and stuff like that. So what I would like to do this year is now build my team so that I can run more efficiently, and that I'm able to bring more content more frequently to my customers.
Okay. You off into editing with the videography thing type stuff?
Oh my goodness, I've done everything. My whole life, I grew up, I went to school for visual communication. So I had a fine arts background and digital arts background. And so I used to do a lot of editing for people for photos and for videos. And I wouldn't consider myself a video editor for other people because that's not what I do for my profession. But I know what I like for myself and I'm able to do it. So I do all my own video editing now, putting it up on the app, typing descriptions. I do everything from front to back.
Wow, that's geez, oh Pete, that's impressive. Jeez, to put it
you.
What's going on? You're welcome. I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna take it back to when you worked on what it was called was On the Clock. The House Always Wins was the football
yes
game that we talked about. Tell me about that experience.
Oh wow, it was such a wonderful experience. I'm sorry.
No, I said it looked like fun.
It was extreme fun for me. So again, I love acting. I love action. And I'm really thankful to my friend Martin Bauer. He, at the time, was with the Rams itself. And I worked with them on an influencer side of things for the Rams. And he just hit me up one day. He was like, hey, we're filming this kind of teaser. And I would love for you to be a part of it. And I'm like, okay. He's like, we got some big people in it. I didn't know who was going to be in it. I had no idea. And I didn't really know the role that was. I got the script. I'm like, okay, cool. Short script. And when I get in there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in here working with Scott Eastwood and Josh Holloway, and Tyrese is in this, and Dennis Quaid is in this. It's just, I was like, who gets this opportunity? I was so grateful. I was grateful to have this opportunity. So it was so nice because the guys were so sweet that day, working with Josh, working with Scott, and Brody Jr. was there that day as well. But they were just so welcoming on set. I grew up watching Lost, so I was a huge fan of Josh Holloway. So to be able to be there, I'm like, oh, look at me now. I was like, I grew up watching this, and now I'm here, Right. Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I always like to have fun and get to play, like, pretend as an adult. That's what acting is. You get to play pretend.
Sure.
And so it's great.
That's a good point. It's a very good point. We talked about initially, you were saying how more people that have not been a product or have not been exposed to Hollywood and that have a particular perspective versus people that have been a part of it, auditions, commercials, and that. Something that I think is really cool that I've observed is that in this day and age, because of technology, you don't necessarily have to even go the Hollywood route per se, because people like Country Wayne, people like King Batch, people like King Vader, people like Splack, people like yourself, you guys put out such good entertainment and have built, your platforms up to such a level to where I almost feel like you can have more fun doing it because you have more control of it because it's yours, it's on your platform, so
yeah.
If not necessarily gravitating more so towards the Hollywood thing, do you think that maybe, should you so feel inclined, that you would want to do short films on using your social media accounts? Working with somebody like Vader or Batch, because you guys,
those guys are beasts.
Yes.
Well, I want to say this first of all, Kendra. Thank you. I definitely give kudos to my guys. I give kudos, man, Batch, Vader, Splack, all the people that you mentioned before me. First of all, they're on a whole nother level. When I tell you, I was like, when I say these men work, men and the women too on the side, they work. Like, sure. If people don't know, it's a lot to encompass with this. So I like the aspect of both. I remember, because I grew up in acting. So acting in typical traditional Hollywood was my thing. And when social media became big, I was very resistant to it in the beginning. I was like, oh, I don't know. I was like, I don't know what to say. This is before the whole thing of influencer creatives became a thing. I was just like, I don't know about this. I remember my agency coming in and bringing in social media experts. They said, hey, social media is getting big. They're starting to hire people from social media to do work. And I was one of those like, oh no, I'm a real model. No, I'm a real this. That's the attitude that I had into things. And then over the years, social media became bigger and it started getting better for me. And I started seeing these deals come in. And I was like, well, maybe this influencing thing isn't so bad. I was like, maybe this isn't such a bad deal that you want to pay me to make an advertisement myself in my own home. Right. So in respect to both, it's interesting because you have to understand, like, on the Hollywood side of things, sometimes Hollywood is not as inclined to hire people if they feel like you're just a social media person.
Sure.
Which kind of sucks. But then at the same time too, if you're great with just being a social media person, cool, nothing wrong with that. Because for my friend Batch, his story, when he told me, he was like, his goal was to make it into Hollywood, so he made himself big online to now where Hollywood calls him. And it's like, yo, like, Batch is in almost every Netflix movie that you see. Any Netflix comedy coming out, Batch is in that. And then kudos to Vader. Vader had his own show on Netflix, and he's always creating his own thing. So I give credit to both. And what I will say is this: for me personally, I like doing both. Mm-hmm. But if you are a person who's creating for yourself, it is a lot of work. So if you're not prepared to do that work, because when I say Batch, Vader, all of them, when it's like they're on the go, you're writing scripts, you're filming, you're editing, you're putting your own money into these sort of things. It's a lot. Even when people see the advertisements that I do for another brand, you have to understand with that, like, even if you're paid to do an advertisement, I have now taken on the role of being, unless I hire a videographer, the director of this, the script writer on this, the editor on this. So I've now taken on all those sort of jobs. So it's work. I'm inclined to do both. But now moving forward, I'm like, I need to hire somebody. I need to hire somebody to help me because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do it.
Sure. It's one of those things where, we make we pay for convenience, and we make the decision of what convenience we want to pay for. You can buy chicken breast bone in at the store. Once upon a time it's 79 cents a pound, and you could take it.
All right.
and I debone it and skin it myself. Okay, or you could pay $1.99 a pound for it. You know, so
right.
Whatever convenience you want, you pay for it. You know, and it's like sometimes paying that extra money for the convenience, the time that you get back because of it is very, very valuable. So I see what you're talking about. You know. Exactly.
So that's my goal. If I'm continuing with these things this year, which I will, it's now hiring a team to help alleviate some of the things that's off of me. Because like you said, it's like not only do I have my app that I do, I have like my in-person things that I do with another company that I'm a part of. I'm starting a second company this year, and I have acting and apps. So it's a lot. It's a lot of things. Plus, just trying to be a family person, be with my family, do the things that I like to do, and enjoy life. It can be very time consuming. So I'm learning how to balance that all out this year.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds real good. You know, speaking of partnerships, and then, this one is really appropriate. Your smile. Okay.
Aww.
You're welcome. So that being the case, it's no secret that Listerine, you working with Listerine now?
I am. Listerine is great. I always tell people I work with brands that I truly would use, that I truly can stand behind and share with people. I would never take a check just because. So there's been a lot of companies I've turned down because I don't agree, or I would it's not authentic to who I am. But because I actually do like taking care of my teeth. I've had braces twice. So I was like,
oh, wow. Okay.
It was like my teeth and my oral health, everything, like taking care of myself in general is a priority for me. So when I got approached by Listerine, I was like, you know what, this is a partnership that I can definitely stand behind. And it was a lot of fun to do and be able to share that with people. And we'll see what's what's in store for us later in the future.
Well, you're off to a great start. I must say, I've seen the videos, so,
Thank you. Look, that goes back to that. Hey, I hope you appreciate the video because I was at home editing.
Yes, I do. And I've been doing editing. I wouldn't consider myself a videographer, but it is work, in terms of editing process. So I can definitely connect with that, Tell me about your experience as far as with Savage Fenty, the photos, the video promo you did, and it possibly being one of the most defining moments as it relates to your insecurities. I think you referenced it as your Rose on a Titanic moment. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so with Savage Fenty, like you said, it was definitely, I would say, a dream come true in many aspects. So as a little girl, I grew up doing martial arts my whole life. And every time I get a job or I get an opportunity to be able to share my martial arts and something that I've loved doing, it melt, like same way you were talking about your father earlier. Like right now, the more I talk about it, I just feel it in my heart and how much I appreciate it. I appreciate it, but it's also those blood, sweat, and tears of those many years of work that I've put in and being able to have those opportunities and for those jobs. And then on top of that, it's my ancestry. It's the people who came before me. It's for my dad. It's for my grandmother. All these sort of things. So there's a lot that goes behind it. And so I remember just getting hit up randomly by some friends, and they were just like, "Hey, this casting came through. You should see about doing it." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I didn't even know it was Savage Fenty, and it was just asking for someone who was a nunchuck expert. And I'm like, "Okay, I could do that for sure."
Right. Yeah.
So I started. And it was like that day, everyone just flooded me. I guess everyone had seen it, and they just flooded like, "This is for you. You need to submit to this." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'll do it." And so I submitted in, and I remember then I got asked. They were like, "Hey, can you do this nunchuck trick?" And it's I don't know if you had seen this trick online. It was a trick where these people, they have a row of candles and they're doing nunchucks, and they take the nunchucks and they go across and it blows out all the candles. I had never done that trick in my life, but I was like, yeah, of course I can. I told my manager, and I was like, tell them, of course I can do that. And I was like, because in my head, I was like, they're not going to ask me to do that. They're just seeing what I could do. Because I was like, because my thing, I was like, for me, you see me do martial arts, I do martial arts nunchucks, meaning there's a difference. I don't do tricking nunchucks, so it's not like all these tricks and stuff that you see. When I'm striking, I strike with a purpose. I strike with what I'm doing. Some twirls in between. And so I was like, well, they don't really understand, what I'm doing. So I was like, it'll be fine. Not but an hour later, Kendrick, I got a message there, they need you to do the nunchuck trick now. Send in a video right now. Wow. So I was like, okay, cool. So I just knew, I was like, do or die in my head. I was like, if I'm going to do this, if I don't send this in, I'm not going to get this job. So I need to send this video in. I need to nail it. And I was like, I know this is mine. I kept saying, I know that this is mine. So speaking on manifestation, speaking on all that sort of stuff. So then eventually by that time I found out it was for Savage Fenty. So I was like, oh, Riri before Rihanna? I was like, oh, this is for Rihanna? And I was like, imagine being on a national campaign and all this sort of stuff. Like, who would ever think as a little girl or as a person, like, for especially something like a sportswear or even lingerie sort of thing, that you would be asked to be like, hey, you're now going to be the face of this. And I was like, who would have thought this little girl who twirls nunchucks in her dad's garage would be the face of this brand now? Not me. I don't think so. And so I got into my living room. I had like these tea light candles, these little tea light candles, and it's not the proper candle. And the nunchucks I use, they're not tricking nunchucks. They're metal. They are legit heavy metal nunchucks. So I was like, all right, we're gonna see how this is gonna work. So I'm going at it, whoosh, going. Candles ain't blowing out. So I'm watching YouTube videos. I'm like, you know what? I said, there's an illusion to this. There's an illusion. There's a different type of nunchuck. I was like, these metal nunchucks ain't doing it. They are not gonna put this out. So I was like, Lord help me, because I don't know how I'm gonna get this job. I was like, I can't lie. I can't CGI it. So we're gonna figure it out. So I remember it was like one of the third time before I ended, I went to go do it. And I was like, in my head, I was like, okay, do or die. We got to get as close as we can to these candles. And I go, boom. Next thing I know, I hit a candle. It flies across the room. Kendrick, when I tell you this, the worst part of it was I was using candles that had black wax. So when I say I destroyed my apartment, there was black wax everywhere in my apartment, on the ceiling, so I destroyed everything. And I was like, it was almost like that moment of defeat, but I was like, you know what? I said, no, you're going to pick this back up and you're going to do this again and you're going to get this job. And then you're going to use that money to pay for all the stuff in your apartment. So I was like, this is where your money going to go. It's going to be fixing everything inside your apartment you just destroyed. But I was like, I will not be defeated by this. I was like, I know that this job is mine and I'm going to do it. So I got back up, put those candles up. As sweaty as I was, one last time, did it. All the candles went out. So I sent it into my management real fast. And I just knew I sent it in without any words and said, I know this job is mine. I'm going to have it. And then within days, they called me. I was like, we need you in New York. You're coming out to New York. You're going to shoot the Savage Fenty ad. And when I say it was the dopest experience of my life, it was so amazing. It was so amazing, again, to be able to have that moment getting up. I remember, because everybody had been anticipating. All the girls a part of the campaign were really amazing women. They had a roller skater, they had ballerinas and all this sort of stuff, but people had never seen someone do nunchucks. They had never seen martial arts. They've seen it in movies, but they had never seen someone, like a girl who's supposed to be sexy, come up with nunchucks and like kill it. So everyone was standing around the set. So it was kind of like the pressure of like, you better get up here and do this, because now you got 50 people watching you, you know? And then it's like Riri's assistant is there. So I'm like, oh, we're not going to hear about this. So I gotta make sure I do this well. But yeah, no, I just remember having this moment before I went out, took a breath. I thought about my family, my grandmother, and I was like, prepare for this your whole life. You got this. And I went out there and killed it. And it was great. And that's how the Savage Fenty ad came about. I would do it again and again and again. I was like, call me when you need me for the show. It didn't happen, but I was like, when you need me for the show next year, just go ahead and call me. I'll be there. You know, it was great.
But see, the thing about an Alita is when you do certain things, it puts you in contact with different people. I mean, really, you know, I'm telling the truth, because even with you in the martial arts that you've trained forever, you know different things as it relates to martial arts. You know different people. You have had the experiences to train with the best of the best things in that sense. So, I spoke with a young woman that did 3 MCU films. So it's like her to be plugged in as a featured expert, whatever, you plugged in. So I said all that to say, you did this for, you know, Savage for Fenty. It's like you plugged in. So of course at some point you want to do something else creative that they've never seen done before. They're going to get with you. You know what I mean? So
no, I've been very blessed in that. You're absolutely right. I'm a firm believer that what is for you is for you. Sure. But you also have to be a believer in that, and you also have to go get it. I've always been very proactive in what I do, and for me, again, I just have these moments throughout life that happen. I remember, because I had done a Bruno Mars video. I rarely do videos, but I did a Bruno Mars video a couple of years back, and I remember doing that, and Bruno coming up to me and saying he knew who I was. He was like, "Oh, you're the martial arts girl," and I was like,
"Oh wow,
you know who I am?" I was like, "Okay, let me find out." So it's just like these people that you would never expect by me sharing and being who I am. I was like, you know what? It's one of those things I love, because like they say, like I'm mentioned in the rooms in a positive way before I even enter. So I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that the energy that I put out there is being seen and acknowledged. You know, Tracy Ellis Ross said this. It's like, it's great if your goal and you want to be on TV, you want to be in film, you want to attain these certain accolades. That's wonderful. But even if you don't see yourself on there or someone doesn't see you on TV, it doesn't mean you haven't made it.
That's true.
I'm a martial artist day in, day out, whether you see it or not. You may not see me training, but I'm a martial artist. You may not see me on TV right now. You may not see me in films, but I'm an actress. Is what I do. I don't act just because I go to set one day and be on a film. I act every day. You know, when I'm in classes, when I'm training, when I'm reading scripts, that's part of my acting. That's part of my job, and I want to share that because I don't want people to get discouraged because it doesn't even have to do with entertainment. It could be with anything in life. Like, yes, there are goals that you want to attain, you're going to try to get it, and it absolutely happens. But just because you don't get it that first time or at the time that you want it, or it doesn't show up in the way that you think it's supposed to show up, doesn't mean you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So I just really want to put that out there to people.
100%. Just to work in tandem a little bit with what you were saying, or what Tracy Ellis Ross quoted. You've been a martial artist. You are a martial artist. And I've said this many times, we do what we do, and we've done what we've done for so long that we don't really think about it. We don't always think about what it means to other people, how it impacts people, you know. But it's like the leader, just being the leader has been a blessing. Not only even before social media, what you've done and how you've been to your sphere of influence, and now with the social media, you can touch so many other people just by being yourself, and that's cool. I love that about existing. You know what I'm saying? We can be ourselves, and it inspires, it encourages, and it motivates. You know what I mean? And then taking it back, and I'm not gonna take you here long, but just like for my father, you know, seeing him get up and go to work every day, no matter how he felt, you know, to provide for his family. It you know, it put something into me, making me do things like cut the grass and do these things. It trained me to do things that I didn't want to do. You know what I mean? If that meant working a job that I hated to keep my bills paid, then I did that for that period of time. But my father may not necessarily have thought that him making me do those things or setting that example that he did would have impacted me the way that he did. He was just dad doing what dad does, but it meant everything to me. So in the same way that what he's done and what he continues to do means everything to me, the same is true for how you impact people and have impacted people and can impact people. You know what I mean?
That is so powerful and beautiful. And I can feel the essence of who your dad was through how you speak. And that's amazing that you passed that forward, because, you know, like I said, I'm grateful, like, you brought me here on your podcast for the reasons of the things that I share and what I do. And it's never to lower or demean what I do. I'm grateful. I love what I do. But I always just want people to know, it's like, you know, in today's society, we look at so much of, you have to be seen, you have to be famous in order to be acknowledged, you have to be this, you have to be that. And like, even then, I remember there was a point in time in life and I was like, what's wrong with being what people call normal? What's wrong with that? You know what I mean? People have this thing like, oh, it's so normal, you should be this, you should be. No, you could just be you. And so, like you said, impact is so important. We make impacts every single day, and being able to acknowledge that. So again, I don't care, like, it's great that hundreds of thousands of people see my stuff, but even if it was just that one person, or this dad who wrote me and said, hey, my little girl looks up to you. Hey, my little girl saw this video. That's what means so much to me, because that little girl one day is going to grow up and hopefully impact somebody else, or pass that forward to somebody else that she gets to know. So just never negate the fact, like you said, about impact and being who you are, no matter what it is. Be who you are and be able to impact people in that way.
Absolutely, 110%. You said that the Rihanna deal was the dopest thing you've done. So is it safe to say that that's your proudest moment so far?
I would say proudest moment of the ending of last year. I would probably say ending of last year. Okay. It's hard because I can't ever say that one thing is doper than another, because I told you, whether it's small, whether it's big, I'm grateful. Every time there was one time I got paid to go and be at a hotel and do martial arts in their gym. Okay, great. I get to go be in a martial arts gym, but I was like, who gets to do this? Like, this is something I grew up doing. And whoever would have thought that one day, again, I was that little girl in my dad's garage and he says, do this move 100 times, keep practicing. Who would have thought that my dad making me do that move 100 times would one day be like, hey, guess what? You can come stay in this hotel for free and go do martial arts in our gym. You know what I mean? So, and nobody saw that. Nobody knew I was doing it, but I did it. And so it's just one of those things where I constantly sit back, and for me, I'm always about gratitude. I teach about gratitude all the time, and I share that through my social media. It's like, I wake up in gratitude every single day for what I have. So that Rihanna moment, that Fenty Beauty thing was a moment. I filmed a commercial in Bolivia, the Asper cream that everybody sees like on TV right now. They're like, oh, you're the sword lady in the Asper commercial. I'm like, yeah, that was filmed in Bolivia. I got a chance to fly out there in Europe in the middle of summer. It was great. But it's just like, it's always these little moments where I just like, I remember getting on set, or if I get booked for a job, I take a moment to myself and I just take a breath and I just like, I'm just so thankful. I'm grateful. So not a single one outweighs another. It was just a great moment for that year. And hopefully more comes along, but every single moment is gratitude for me. And this is a great job.
Yeah. And it's amazing. I love the fact that you mentioned that, because gratitude changes perspective. Or it adds perspective, I have to say. And the more consistently you can have, people can walk around with a mindset of gratitude, you find less to complain about, because you're grateful for, and people may not believe you or may not believe me when I say it, but really, if you think about what is a tough time for myself or for you, what we have going on as far as good far exceeds and outweighs it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I'm healthy. I have a roof over my head, clothes on my back, food in the refrigerator, a car to drive. I'm straight, man. And then if you really want to take everything else away, I still got my life, and with my life, I can still accomplish and aspire to be more and do more. So it's like, I feel you on the gratitude for sure.
I'm telling you, because here's the thing, and I've learned this about everything. It's like you said, not everybody believes it. Gratitude is not for everyone. It's not. Everything, same way with belief systems. Like, if it's for you, it's for you. Gratitude is for me because it's amazing. But some people are just like, oh, that's BS. It doesn't work. Manifestation, all these sort of things. It may not be for you, and that's okay. But what I can tell you is that it's made my life better, and that I love it. You know what I mean? Being able to have gratitude, because I've been in those dark days. I've been depressed before. I've been in those dark days where, it just seemed like the world was against you and so much. And I'm not saying that, all of a sudden you have gratitude and life is just so much better. That's not the case. It's work. It's still constant work. As much as like you get to a place of being like in a mindset, I'm in gratitude. I don't know what all I can say on this thing, but I was like, shitty stuff happens. Bad stuff happens to people all the time, even myself. Like, even the other day was something like, I got like some disappointing news, and I was like, it could have really ruined my day. And it was starting to ruin my day. And I was like, you know what? What can I do about the situation? Can I change it right now? I can't. I was like, but you know what? It's cool. I'm gonna figure it out. And I had to put myself back into that mindset. So that was a challenge for me. That was still work at that moment in time. But it's just like you said, when I thought about it in retrospect, I was like, I got a car that I drive. I have an apartment that I live in. I have food. I have people around me that I love, that I feel good around. I'm good. What am I complaining about?
That's all I'm talking about. Now, I want to ask, what is some advice that you would give to someone that's facing a tough time in their life?
This whole podcast.
That'll work.
No, I told someone else this. So I have an associate that I saw the other day, and he's been going through a really, really hard time. You could tell he's in a very dark place. And I remember when I was in my dark place, and I told him this straight up. I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that everything's going to be better. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you'll be fine and you'll figure it out. I was like, because I remember when I was in my dark place, I hate it when people told me that. I hate it when people told me there's a blessing at the end of this. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's a reason why everything happens. I hated that in that moment. And I said, for you, you're going to have to figure that out for yourself. The only person that can save you is yourself. So I said two things for me. It's like I had to learn a lot along the way. I learned gratitude. I learned, all these sort of things. I said, but you got to get to a place where you got to figure it out for yourself. And you also, I've learned a lot about healing. A lot of times when people say, I want to heal from this. I want to feel better. I don't want to feel this anymore. And you may never heal from something. But what we learn how to cope with things better. We can learn how to cope with loss better. We learn how to cope with hurt better. So the same way crazy things happen in my life, it doesn't mean that I never feel crazy things that happen in my life. I just learned how to cope with it differently and to work through it differently. So for people who are in a dark place or in a down time right now, fight. You got to fight for you. Hopefully you surround yourself with people who can bring some light into your life. Because my thing was, when I've had my down days, I said, thankfully for myself, I knew that I would never let myself get too far down to where I couldn't come back up. Right. But if I found myself in that dark place and I felt like I couldn't get back up or I was drowning in it, I knew I had people surrounding me that I could reach out to and say, hey, I am not good right now. I'm not in a good place, and I could reach out to them. So that's my advice to people is make sure that you have those surrounding you that you feel comfortable enough, and that you also have to be brave enough to be able to reach out, because I think that's the biggest thing. People are so afraid of reaching out to people or being afraid to say, you got to be brave, you got to fight, and hopefully stick through this so that you find a way to either learn how to navigate through that or to actually really do heal yourself. But I can't promise you that things are going to be better right away day one, but it's work. Yeah. It's just like a muscle. I always give this analogy. I ended on this. I give this analogy. I said, when I used to train people, and if someone came to me and said, hey, I want to be really fit, but I only want to work out like twice this year, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen realistically. So the same thing with feelings and mentality. And if you want to be a person who's a little bit more positive, that learns how to cope with things and navigate through things better, it's a muscle. You got to work that muscle constantly to make that muscle stronger, my mental muscle for that. So if I only do it once in a year, twice in a month, I'm not going to have that mentality to be like, oh, I feel pretty good. That horrible thing happened, but it's okay. I feel pretty good about it. I'll work it out. You're not going to have that capability. And the same thing, you could be a person who's really positive and great and feel wonderful, but as soon as you lay off working that muscle, atrophy, the muscle gets weaker. True. So it's a constant thing that we have to work on, just like the physical form. And that's my advice to people, is just stick in there, fight for yourself, and surround yourself with people who, if you're not ready at the time to reach out, they'll be able to reach out to you and help pull you up.
Sure. Sounds good. What is some advice? Excuse me. What's some advice that...
I was over here like this the whole time.
That's probably why I'm doing it.
Harsh.
What is some advice or encouragement that you needed or you wish someone had given you when you were going through a tough time? Could have been when you were 17, could have been when you were 4 or 5. What's the word of encouragement? What's some advice that you wish someone had shared with you that you hadn't?
That I had probably, so the advice that I wish someone had shared with me was probably this. The other part of that was allow yourself to feel. Okay. So I realized that at one point in time in my life, my dad was dying. We had lost everything physically, every physical possession you could think about. We were homeless, and have food and have hot water. Okay. People did not communicate with you. And I remember at that time, because I was trying to be so strong for my family and for everyone else, I was like, I'm going to be fine. I'm just going to push through this. The whole push through thing, that was my way of coping, was just to block everything out. I'll allow myself to feel later, but whatever. And it worked for some time. Not going to lie, it worked for some time. It was good. But deep down inside, I was in pain. I was unhappy. And there came a point in time in my life where I was at my breaking point. I literally was at my breaking point. I thought about killing myself, all this sort of thing. And I was like, okay, my family had never believed in depression. They didn't believe in depression. They didn't believe in therapy, stuff like that. So I was like, what is this thing that I'm feeling something is really wrong? If I want to drive my car over a bridge, something is really wrong, And so I started realizing to myself, I said, you know what? I never really allowed myself to feel. I was so focused on making sure everybody felt better, that we got through things, this and that. I didn't allow myself to really just allow to have those feelings, or even accept that what had happened to us had happened to us. I was the shoulda, woulda, coulda person, meaning I wish it was like this. It could be like this, but we should do it like this. I was shoulda, woulda, coulda, rather than focusing on what was at hand. What is happening right now? What can I actually do to remedy this or change the situation? Cool, I'll implement it. But if I can't, I can't. And we just got to sit through this feeling. We're going to get through it. So that's one of the pieces of advice that I would give. And then an advice that I want to add this on, an advice that I received from someone that I knew at that time, was that I was so broken at the time, and I was trying to help everybody and everything around me. And my manager at the time, he looked at me, he said, Nolita, he said, I love that you love your family. I love that you love your friends, and you're trying to do this, and you're trying to take care of things. He said, but you need to learn to be a little bit more selfish. And at the time I was like, selfish? What? And he was like, no, he was like, people make selfish to be a bad thing. He said, what I mean is, you want to be able to help your parents, but you're not fully able to, and you're so depleted, you're drained after emotionally in every way. He said, but if you took some time to really just give to yourself, nourish yourself, focus on your things, he's like, imagine how you would feel, how full you would be, and how much more you could give to people, or feel good about giving to people without leaving yourself in the way you felt. Learn to be more selfish. And when I took that advice, it was hard in the beginning, but when I took that advice, my life changed forever. My life changed forever. People were like, oh, what are you doing? Why aren't you around this? I said, but I had to give to me. And same way, right now, I told you I stepped away for a few months. So I was like, I'm going to give to me. I've learned how to be I need to take care of myself. Right. And when I take care of myself, now I feel better. And now I could be out here with you all and do this and this. But if I'm constantly trying to give, and never give to myself, I'm going to be depleted. That's the advice that I would give.
If you're no good to yourself, you're no good to anyone else.
Anybody at all. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Good stuff, man. Well, Nalita, thank you so much again for taking the time to talk with me. I'm talking about making my month, making my year, making my year, you know. Gee,
Thank you, Lou. Likewise. Like I told you, it's the same for me. So that's what I was telling you. Oh, I was like, okay, I need to find out this cologne because like, where's my perfume? But it's the same thing for me. It's like, for me, it's always a blessing. And it's a place of gratitude to be like, you actually want to talk to me? People want to put me on their podcast and talk to me? Really? You know, that's the thing I think about. So thank you for that. I'm really appreciative for this time. And I really hope that people get something good out of this.
I'm sure they will. And I'm looking forward to seeing what else more that you'll do in the time that you are on doing your thing before you take another break. Then you come back and do some more. I'm enjoying it. I am enjoying it.
Yes.
You're wonderful. And I appreciate you, Nalita.
Thank you. You have a wonderful, wonderful day. And thank you so much.
Thanks again. Appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.